If you're a serious Spanish learner and interested in being fluent, there's something you're probably doing that needs to stop right now. As you know, there's a lot of vocabulary out there to learn, and it can feel really exciting to pick up new words in Spanish. But there's a skill used by the most serious language learners, the ones who can become fluent in a language in a matter of months, that isn't often taught online because it frankly doesn't sell very well. That skill is the skill of ignoring vocabulary. Believe it or not, ignoring information is actually one of the best things that you can do as a language learner. Most rookie Spanish learners make the fatal mistake of trying to learn everything, everywhere, all at once. But if you do that, instead of focusing exclusively on the truly essential components of the language, you're making a huge mistake and slowing down your progress toward fluency. Instead, there's a simple discipline that you should follow that I'll describe in this video. And to be honest, this is one of the language learning messages that I get the most excited about because I truly think that this principle changes everything once you start rigorously applying it. The fact is, until a certain point in your language journey, it's extremely important that you restrict your knowledge to a relatively small amount of vocabulary. One day, after a certain point in your language learning journey, you'll be ready to expand your horizons, and then you can confidently absorb every single thing that you find important, picking up new random words here and there every day, and it will work, but only because of the foundations that you've laid first by following this principle. I'm going to assume you're a native English speaker, and let's say that you're reading a book and you come across a word that you don't know yet, and it's the English verb to exculpate. You look this word up and you learn that it means to declare not guilty. Something's going to happen. As a native English speaker, you'll almost instantly now know how to use this word in a variety of situations and in different forms. We found her innocent and exculpated her. The argument proved that the man was right, exculpating him. For him to have been exculpated quickly, he would have needed a more solid alibi. Great, you've learned a new word and how to use it. But here's the important question. Are you going to teach this word to a beginner English student? Of course not. The student would have no clue how to use this word, and besides, they'd be very unlikely to have a reason to use it. On the other hand, let's try a sort of opposite word. How about the English verb get? This word is used all over the place in English with many different meanings. It's very handy because you can use it in place of many other verbs, and it's so frequently used that the more you use it, the more you sound like a native English speaker. Here's the whole point. One of these words is clearly more important than the other. If you're teaching English to someone and you teach them the word exculpate before get, that'll impede their learning and increase their frustration. All the effort that they're putting into this obscure word is effort they should be putting into words that will actually help them start thinking in English so that they can get to the point where other vocabulary integrates effortlessly. So now you may be asking, when do you get to move on to more advanced vocabulary? And personally, I would say after you're basically fluent. Once you've mastered the top words in Spanish, the prepositions and pronouns, and ser, estar, haber, and tener, after a certain point, you'll easily be able to pick up new words seamlessly. And that's not just a general principle. I believe that the better you follow this advice, the more you'll accelerate your language learning process. In other words, the more focused you get on essential vocabulary, the sooner you'll be thinking in Spanish. For example, it's not enough just to avoid obscure words like exculpate, requisite, or abstruse. You can accelerate your learning even more by choosing to learn only the top 500 words in your target language. In English, these would be words like get, do, and just. In Spanish, they'd be words like por, les, and sea. In fact, my advice is that you outright refuse to learn other words until you've mastered the minimum amount to make you basically fluent. This will give you enormous leverage in your learning. If you set the goal of only mastering the top 500 words in all of their possible uses, you can make tangible progress. Every day you'll know that you're closer to that goal because every single word you learn will be an important word that moves you measurably closer. Whereas if your goal is to learn everything, you'll end up going in circles, which is sadly what most people do. Most Spanish students think that just learning more words will make them fluent. But you'll serve yourself much better by focusing on the core essence of the language and not moving beyond there until that's mastered. Okay, you may be convinced at this point that the top 500 words are important, but how easy is it going to be to follow this tip in real life? Staying on track and following this principle is harder than it sounds. Most early language learners look around them at the world, and as they see physical objects, they think that those things must be really important to learn, so they want to learn the names of all of these nouns as soon as possible. But realistically, which of the following sentences do you think you'll find yourself saying more often? The eggs and milk are in the kitchen with the apples and carrots. I want you to do it as soon as you can. Each of these sentences requires approximately the same amount of vocabulary, but the second one will obviously be useful in many, many more situations. And yet, a lot of second-year Spanish students can easily say the first sentence, but they have no idea how the grammar works in the second one. Why do most people make this mistake? It's a simple temptation. The first example is visual and physical, while the second one is abstract. But paradoxically, that's exactly what makes the second sentence so much more valuable. Instead of entertaining ourselves with shiny objects like foods and animal names and colors, we need to focus on clear, perfect communication, which comes from mastering just the top words and the sentence structures and the grammar that's associated with those words. The soul of the Spanish language lives in the top 500 words. If you can effectively start thinking in Spanish just using those top words, you're ready to move on and learn more vocabulary. At that point, nouns, adjectives, and action verbs will now all come as second nature, fitting perfectly into the fabric that you've created in your mind. And at that point, you'll be able to learn words like exculpate, and it won't be intimidating. You'll be able to use it like any other verb that you know. Some of our best coaching students have hit this turning point within weeks of starting to learn Spanish. Others hit that point after about 4 or 5 months. But one way or another, if you avoid learning trivial vocabulary until you've mastered the top 500 words in Spanish, that turning point of truly thinking in Spanish and approaching fluency will come much sooner than you might think. If you're ready to stop messing around, if you're ready to do the serious work of learning the heart of the Spanish language, check out SpanishVideoCourse.com, where we'll teach you to master the top 500 words in the Spanish language for free. And subscribe to this YouTube channel for more timeless study hacks to help you communicate deeply and personally in Spanish faster than ever.